It's important to remember that might is right. When the Chinese officials have been interviewed by the Western media, the Chinese officials have been very clear that Hong Kong is part of China, that it doesn't belong to Britain, that it's theirs, and it's nobody else's. And if anyone has a problem with that, what are they going to do about it? And the days are gone in which Britain can dictate to China where it stands and where its territory is and where its land is. Now, I can already think of all the boomerisms in which people will be upset by this. Oh, how dare China not live up to their contract? But there was no contract. The millisecond Britain withdrew its navy and its forces from Hong Kong, it was Chinese land. And it was only a matter of time before China built up the physical capital and the political capital to move in on their territory. And we must always remember this process. When the Muslims do it, it's called taqiyya. All right, when the Chinese do it, I don't know, it's called business. Right? And we need to remember that we must play the same game. We don't have the opportunity to fly underneath the radar anymore. We are known as a group that is promoting hostility and violence and probably all sorts of other precursors to hate speech laws that they're setting in stone as we speak. But we must at all times remember this slowly creeping force comes to fruition to the point where they can't do anything about it. And how does this apply to us? Well, what I think about when I hear about this Chinese situation is I have a look at the economy. I have a look at the economics of the situation. And there's been a lot of talk about economics lately. And I've noticed that our dollar isn't purchasing quite what it was. And the price of gold has gone up. And the stock market's looking shaky. And I look at all these factors that to the average Joe it doesn't affect. But I think about how we got to this situation and what the government is doing. And the government is promising that there's not going to be a recession, that there's not going to be great economic downfall from these geopolitical shifts and these trade wars. But what they don't realize is that our entire system in this country is dependent on foreign systems. We have no autonomy in this country. We are a vassal state of the world's economics and the world's money. And if it doesn't collapse this time with this situation and this housing bubble, it will next time. You see, because the damage control that the state is going into right now is make the bubble bigger. If the bubble gets bigger, it can't collapse. Now, I'm not expecting everyone to understand economics, but what the government's solution is they print more money, they lower the interest rates, they encourage foreign investment, and that way the bubble doesn't collapse and the cogs and the wheels keep turning of this false fiat economy, and we never have to pay for it. Well, I have a different rule, and we all do here, and under natural order, we pay for everything in this life. Nothing comes for free. And all this growth, these jobs and this growth that they constantly talk of, is built on nothing, absolutely nothing. It is complete fallacy. It is a banana republic. And I'll tell you how they did it. They packed up all of our industry in this country and they put it in container ships and they sent it overseas to the third world. And you know why? Because it was more convenient, because it was cheaper, because they'd make more profit, because it was easier. Not for us, but for those at the top who made these decisions for us on our behalf. They packed up our industry and they sent it over the third world because manufacturing's cheaper over there. And the banks encouraged it. Not only did they encourage it, they conspired to do it. They conspired by not lending money to our industry so that it crumbles, so that the businesses that do stay have no option but to leave or go bankrupt. And all the smart businessmen and all the economic geniuses packed up their industries and moved it overseas. So all the great production of the world comes out of the colored masses of these cheap countries where they have slave factory owners. And these slave factory owners work their people to death because they can do that, because they're not us. They're not us. They don't have our values. They don't care about their fellow man we do. They don't have that altruism about them. And we have too much. And when our industry gets packed up and shipped overseas, They do another genius economic trick. You see, they bring in hundreds of thousands of people, now millions a year, into this country and the rest of the Western world. And they do this, and they don't care where they come from. They don't care where they're compatible. All of this is irrelevant. They don't care that you're upset about it. They don't care that they're not integrating. They buy fridges. They buy TVs. They borrow money for homes. And so the banks make more money, and their stocks go up. And Harvey Norman makes more money, and his stocks go up. And anyone that builds shit overseas for cheap, plastic crap, and sends it here to this country, sells more and makes more money, and the whole system reinforces itself. And now we're more dependent on the system. And the politicians will tell you that they're in charge and they have our interests in heart, and they'll keep the whole system afloat. And your house that's $1.2 million, that's actually only worth $500,000, will be worth 1.3 by next year, as long as we keep migrating people in the country, and we keep devaluing our dollar, and we keep sending our industry overseas. And if this globalist system, this great capitalist, socialist at the same time, this capital, this transfer of capital internationally, which is this great transfer and evening and balancing of wealth of all the world's people, at the same time coupled with the great evening and balancing of all the races of men, where they destroy the uniqueness of all people in the world, starting with us. We're the beta test. We're the first to destroy. The end goal is a few Brahmin class elites of chosen people that sit at the top and count their fucking money every day. And they keep going, and they're so obsessed with this, they will do it even to their own destruction. There is no long-term goal. There's no long-term planning. It's just greed, it's sin, it's chaos, it's haram, however you want to put it. It's the antithesis to who we are. And if you want to know the difference between our worldview and theirs, if you want to know the difference between what we are going to create and their world, when you look at the two worlds right next to each other, in our world, we don't care if it's more convenient to send our industry overseas. We're not playing games with our children's future and our grandchildren's future. We're not giving away anything to these people out of ease, or something that's more convenient or hospitable or profitable for us right now. The difference between our future, our world, and the current one is we will make no mistake in giving away our sovereignty to these people. And I'm not asking of anyone to give their death to this cause, like the government might think that I am. I'm asking for all of you to give your life. We have 50 years. We have 50 years before this whole process cannot be undone. In our lifetime, in most of the men in this room's lifetime, this will come undone. And if it doesn't, it never will.